kingdom come, that will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon, welcome to everybody. The first city council meeting of the month. Madam Clerk, please call the roll, please.
Okay, Maxine Miller. Here. Kyle Miller. Joe St. Columbia.
Present.
Latoya Harris. Present. Monica Davis. Don Etherly.
We have a board. Before we start, there is a list of things that I'm giving you all. There's a packet from the water department. I want you all to know every dime that we spent on $200,000. Yeah, that is. So I will offer you a copy to the press so they can see. It's for the public to see as well. Is he gonna be here tonight? I know, sir. I had this done on my own because I wanted you all to know you can speak to him at a later date. But right now, it's us. But what I decided to do is to print this off so everybody can see what we did, because we have a lot of noise going around, but I want to make sure that everybody in this community knows what's going on with taxpayers' dollars. And I think Mr. Murdoch will appear sometime today. He will appear if you want to talk to him. He'll always appear. And there's Mr. Murdoch there. So when the time comes, well, we'll talk to Mr. Murdoch. But I want to make sure that I gave you a copy of this. Thank you. Because I need you all, because I want you all to look over it by the end of the meeting. I will ask you all to, everything has been paid, but I want you all to vote. Ratify. Yeah, ratify this, because I want the public to see, and I will post a copy on our webpage so the citizens can see what we're taxpayers' dollars. As you can see, our community is getting cleaned up. Anderson Street is getting cleaned up all around the community. We are cleaning up, and we are using city employees, and we're just trying to make sure the city is clean, and we're working for a better Helena-West Helena. So if you want to get on board on that, we're happy to have anybody who wants to get on board. We're tearing down houses. We're cleaning up vacant lots that need to be done. We're trying to attract industry to come to Helena. As you can see around where the state highway is, the state is cutting their grass, and they're working with Helena-West Helena. That is a good thing for this community. So we got approval of the minutes.
You should have before you 2 sets of minutes. They're stapled together and highlighted at the top.
Do I need more time, or?
Minutes are from June 27th and July 11th. Those are the 2 sets.
Is there a motion? Ms. Miller moves to approve the minutes from
from June 27th and July 11th.
June 22nd and July
11.
11th.
Vote on these separately. You can't vote on them together.
Okay, that's all right. Well, Miss Miller moved July.
What's your motion?
You approve the minutes for June 27th, 2023.
27.
That second. Ms. Harris, second the motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Maxine Miller,
Yes.
Latoya Harris.
Yes.
Bill St. Columbia,
Yes.
Monica Davis. Motion carries. Okay.
That's for.
Mayor Franklin.
Oh, she abstained. Okay. I can understand.
July 11th meeting,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve minutes for July 11th.
Ms. Miller moves July to, make was to move to approve July 11th meeting. Is there a second?
That's it.
Mrs. Harris seconds the motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Maxine Miller,
Yes.
Latoya Harris,
Yes.
Monica Davis, Mr. St. Columbia.
I haven't finished reading it yet.
We're gonna have, that motion gonna probably fail because I wasn't here, so we'll bring that one back. On July 11th, we're gonna have to bring it back.
So you'll table July 11th to the
We're
next
gonna
meeting.
table it unless if another member comes and Mr. Anthony comes, or Mr. Miller will bring it back. So we're at section B, city treasurer report.
Emailed you guys the treasurer's report. I laid it before you, before the meeting. But I'd like to,
Okay.
there's nothing remarkable that I'd like to discuss about the treasurer report in particular. There may be some things we may need to get into and discuss later on during the meeting. But right now, I kind of like to wait just in case. I may need to dive into some things a little bit later. But I did provide you with a income statement from the water department through June 30th.
In this report here.
And it's a separate one right there. I forgot to include it in.
Oh, this income statement.
Yes, sir. And so that's through June 30th of this year. I forgot to include June. I usually have the month and then the year-to-date period, but that what I provide is through June 30th. But there may be some, I kind of like to hold off on. If I need to go into detail, I just do it later on during the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for the treasurer? If not, we'll hear from our city attorney. City attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to each of you. There are a few things that I want to address. Some of them are later on the agenda. But one of the things that I've been discussing with you all at the previous city council meeting was the Riggs litigation. The mayor pushed that on the agenda at the request of Riggs. Riggs made an offer to settle the case. For you all who are unaware, we were sued for contractual obligation that was made by the previous administration for repairs at the landfill. So equipment at landfill total $125,000. And their list is completely unpaid. And that's part of the $588,000 that the city had not paid when this administration began. And what they said, if the city is interested in discussing settlement, their offer is that we pay it in equal payments over either 1 year or 18 months. I believe that there are some defenses. I can't discuss them in detail with you all tonight, but the facts that are alleged that are without dispute is they gave equipment was fixed. It may not have followed all of the city's proper procedure, but their allegation is the city owes $125,000 for repairs to equipment that was done at the landfill on their behalf, and they have two offers. The city can either, if you want to settle it, pay them over 12 months, or pay them over 18 months. Those are the two offers that the attorney sent me relating to it. Now, speaking of Ms. Ramsey said the equipment was fixed. The repair were done.
So the repairs have been made and finished and done.
According to him.
According to Ms. Ramsey and according to them, this is last year.
Right.
This isn't current equipment. This is last year. We were sued in February for unpaid repair bills for last year.
We need to get the equipment fixed. Has it been fixed?
No,
Still not fixed?
no.
Let me be more specific.
Yeah.
Okay. At some point, they were fixing the equipment and they headed and working repair. And the Riggs alleges that the city obligated itself to $125,000 as a parish, which they did. And after they completed those repairs, the city wasn't paying the invoices, the allegation. And then thereafter, this equipment went in disrepair again and wasn't working at the end of the year. But the allegation is that the city has invoices that are due to them for repairs only for $125,000 for the landfill equipment. Now, you've had reports that landfill equipment wasn't working at the end of the year. But much of that, is my understanding, was when the city was repairing it themselves, not this. Now, I don't know if the equipment was fixed properly. We're still in the discovery process. I'm just telling you all of the two offers, because they offer, we could sell it, pay them over a year, or pay them over 18 months. We'll continue with litigation.
I mean, if they've done the work, we need to pay them. If the work was satisfactory, we need to pay them.
On some of the equipment, on some of the equipment, it's still is just in code. They came down and put a code in, and that's why our equipment is still not working, because the code they put in still doesn't. The equipment is still sitting there unfunctional. So we at this point, that's what the only offer is. The case is early. As I said, we were sued either in February or March. We filed a response, and their immediate response was, "Hey, are y'all interested in settling, get a payment plan or whatever?" And looking at the lawsuit, the expenditures we had to go through comparative meeting minutes to what was actually spent. Is above the mayor's spending authority, the $125,000. Some of them you all probably did approve. I'm not saying you approved all of them. I met with the city treasurer, asked him to give us some guidance as to whether the city could afford to pay $125,000 if you also chose over 12 months or 18 months or some.
You as city attorney, what are you recommending we do?
I
What do you think the city needs to do?
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I would defer on the financial part to the treasurer and the clerk. But from a legal standpoint, we have some defenses to it. But at the same time, the city has used their services. The city did contract for them to repair it. So they're going to do something. Now, just as we said with anything, if we're found to be in breach of contract, they're not only entitled to $125,000, they'll be entitled to all their attorney fees on top of that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the issues that we would potentially have. Now, as far as our local policy, I don't think our local ordinances will follow. And so we can get into the muck and mire and all that and made all defenses on that. Now, one of the things that it appears in the contracts, I haven't seen a document that's signed by Kevin Smith, former mayor, obligating the city to it. But there were documents sent back and forth to Riggs Caterpillar to authorize the work. Now, from their position, they said, well, you had a person who with the parent authority to enter this agreement with us. And we fixed it based on that person's parent authority. But I haven't seen any documents show that Kevin Smith authorized to be fixed. But Riggs did come, Riggs did do the work.
If he didn't, there's nothing to show he's authorized, so what do we do then? If he didn't, if there's no proof to show he authorized it, so what that leaves us?
It will be up to a judge. The question that the mayor asked me was, what's up to us? One of the defenses the city filed was that the act was ultra virus. An ultra virus act means that it was beyond your authority. You never had the authority to do it in the first place. And so you have to follow the position, you have to follow the law as to who has the authority to contract. 1458-303 says the mayor shall have the exclusive authority to enter the contracts. And so it's the mayor's exclusive authority to enter the contracts. I didn't see a signed contract from Mayor Kevin Smith. Now, their argument is, okay, but we came down, he may have verbally told him. I don't know if he verbally told him to come down and fix the equipment, but I don't see a signed instrument.
You were city attorney last year and the year before,
Yes,
and the mayor was on the city council at the time, last year.
yes, sir.
Now, what is your recommendation for this council now to do to take care of all this? Because we need to get it by us.
Well, at this point, I have an obligation to present you the offer. As it relates to it, I think you have some legal defenses, but a lot of it's going to turn on how a judge sees the situation. Because as a legal matter, there are doctrines that they were raised, and I'm not trying to tell you everything in a public forum as to what I would raise if I was on their side. But their position is that we gave you the equipment, we fixed the equipment, you didn't pay us. That's their position. Our position is that it wasn't an authorized expenditure. You never signed a proper contract with the city. Okay? And so, but the question is this, there's risk at all times. The risk could be, you could be held liable for $125,000. In addition to however many attorney fees they have to do as we go through this entire litigation. Again, this is at the very beginning of the case, very beginning. So we haven't done what's called discovery. We haven't gone through and taken in depositions, done any of that type of stuff that leads to more expense. They filed a lawsuit, we filed a response. Legally, we filed an answer. And that's what we are. And they immediately said, let's try to settle it. One of the issues I think we're having with the landfill is that they are saying that Briggs won't come down to do the codes because of the litigation, is my understanding. Because they're unpaid.
Right. But since
When I said the codes, but equipment to work, they gotta come in and update a code for the equipment to work once it's repaired. And so that's one of the issues that we have as well. Well, I've asked the clerk to look through the minutes to show us what rigs were approved as part of the defense lawsuit. And she has not given me that at this time. But with the water crisis and the other things that were going on, she's had a lot on the plate to try to get documents to me.
But as you can recall, when I was on the city council, we were still renting equipment because, well, I don't know, we was renting equipment because we was told it didn't work. So we was renting equipment and still didn't pay rigs because it didn't come across the table. So we still in that same situation that, you know, it's the same fight between did he get the approval, did he not, or the same issue that we have now. So it's
Nothing's gonna happen until we make it happen.
So, Mr. St. Columbia, I was speaking. So we're at the same issue that we was renting equipment at the same last year that we're doing now, because same thing happened with the former administration with these same issues. So I when I was on the council, it wasn't presented to us. Kevin entered into a contract, so that's why we're here. So there's no signature showing that he entered into a contract. I don't know why, but this is where we are. So and for them to just come down here for 5 minutes to put in the code, then your equipment works. So I think that was them. So we're fighting that now. So
the instrument that's attached to their lawsuit is a credit application executed by the city clerk.
So the credit application, did anybody sign the credit application?
That's what I just said.
Oh, so she signed the credit application.
That's what that's attached to the lawsuit.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. St. Columbia is asking for a recommendation, and what I hear the city attorney saying is it's in its infancy. He's not prepared to give you a legal recommendation at this point. If I'm understanding your question and your response, you need more time to do discovery in the lawsuit, which is where he finds out who did what, gets documentation and all that stuff. So probably we need to table this and have it brought back in a different meeting when he's had an opportunity to make give a proper legal opinion on.
That's correct, Mr. Ether. One of the things I want to say back to Ms. St. Columbia, the issue with, you said, well, why did you even present it to us? Because once an offer is made to a client, I have an obligation to bring it to you. I can't just say, oh, you made an offer and I'm not going to present it to my client. And so I have an obligation to bring it to you to tell you, here's an offer that they made. They want to give payment plan either 12 months or 18 months. They believe they can win the lawsuit and get attorney's fees is what they are saying. Now, to the extent that we're found to be liable for it, they would get 100% of it and the attorney's fees if we're liable for it. But if you all want to table, and then as we get more information, we'll go forward.
I'm on the table.
What I asked, just for clarity, I asked the treasurer to look into working forward to play. And I'll finish this, then we'll settle it and go back with the motion. I know you hadn't got a second because I interrupted you. This is part of the overall $588,000 you all were told about, that when the January 1st started, that there was indebtedness, and this is part of it. Because some of you all wanted specific documentation. 125,000 of it is this lawsuit. Ms. Ether, I yield back to you. I'm sorry for interrupting you before you get to motion.
I move the table.
Mr. Evans moves the table, the rig issue. Mrs. Miller seconds the motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Harris? Yes. Ms. Davis? Yes. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. St. Columbia?
Motion passes.
Motion carries.
Next issue.
One other issue, civil rights lawsuit, John Bailey versus the city. Mr. Bailey has sued the city for civil rights violations and breach of contract for not receiving promotions. The judge dismissed the case in the city's favor last week.
New business.
We won.
Water. Mr. Murdoch is here. Water business. Communities Unlimited presentation. They're not here. I don't see anybody from Communities Unlimited presentation. Number two, the 2019 and 2021 audit. Through 2021 audit. Did you want to talk?
The audits.
Mr.
It's my understanding that the chief of staff emailed and provided copies of the 2019, 20, and 2021 water department audits to the body. And he is now approaching the mic to speak on that issue.
Well, I actually wasn't expecting to make any presentation at all on them. But I just thought the council might, one, that they need to know about them, and two, they might, I guess, discuss the contents of them. But the audit reports that I've gotten my hands on, so to speak, going back to 2018, reflect that this water department was not submitting all of the funds that were collected as sanitation fees to the general fund. And this audit, or these audits, were done by Maya and Ward, PA, certified public accountants out of Wynne, Arkansas. And I believe the specific accountant is Hoda Ward. And these audits are 20 pages a piece or so. And there's a section in there, makes reference to accounts. I believe it's accounts payable. And it's under a different alphabet in each audit, but it reflects from 2019, accounts payable, City of Helena-West Helena, on page 14, accounts payable includes $782,586 payable to the City of Helena-West Helena. This payable represents sanitation fees collected by the Helena-West Helena water system to be paid to the City of Helena-West Helena. The question may be asked, was this body made aware of these monies not being transferred over? And I believe the answer is yes, the body was made aware that all the monies were not being transferred over. The information that I've been provided is that the quantity was not necessarily specified, so the council may not have realized how much it was. There was 700,000 in 2019. It's going to be likewise in 2020, and in 2021 was over $1 million. And I'm looking at it on my phone. I can pull it up real quickly for 2020 and 2021. But I have emailed those to each of the council members, all of the city elected officials as well. In 2020, on page 14 again, notes J, accounts payable, City of Helena-West Helena. It reads accounts payable includes $735,137 payable to the City of Helena-West Helena. This payable represents sanitation fees collected by the Helena-West Helena water system to be paid to the City of Helena-West Helena. And then in 2021, that audit is going to reflect a similar finding, but it's over $1 million. It reflects on page 15 and the note I, accounts payable, includes $1,197,388 payable to the City of Helena-West Helena. This payable represents sanitation fees collected by the Helena-West Helena water system to be paid to the City of Helena-West Helena. And there's a separate one you haven't been sent going back to 2018, reflecting $333,333. So when you add all those years together, you get about $3 million that haven't been remitted from the water department to the general fund. And of course, the city council is in charge of the finances. And so at some point you deal with that, however you choose, or however the city treasurer, city attorney recommend that you deal with it. But it's one of those things we just thought should be brought to your attention. It's also one of those things we thought should be brought to the attention of the general public in light of the misinformation and the misconception that the money that the city council appropriated for working through the pandemic, I forget what the proper name was, but basically paying people who put their lives on the line during the pandemic to pick up your garbage, to make sure your water ran, to be your police, and be your fire. You paid them a fee for that, authorized by the federal government, the money provided by the federal government to do that. And the same way it was done with other cities throughout, not just Arkansas, but throughout the country. And so those fees were paid as, some people are calling them bonuses, but they were not bonuses for the employee. It was paid for working under hazardous conditions. And COVID was such a condition that police officers who died of COVID are considered to have died in the line of duty. So that was added on to the line of duty for police officers dying. So they got EOWs and all that type of stuff for police officers who died of COVID. Your sanitation workers didn't have a choice as to whether they picked up garbage from a house where people had COVID. They had to pick up all the garbage. Your water employees didn't have a choice as to whether they serviced, turn on, disconnect, or they did at a house that had COVID. They had to go. The police didn't have a choice to whether to interact with any family where these folks had COVID. They had to go. The fire department was likewise. And the people in this building and wherever else they worked, I wasn't here at the time, but they didn't have a choice of who they dealt with. They dealt with the general public during that time, and why they were paid that premium pay during that time period. People can call it whatever they like, but certainly we want to make sure you have the information so that you understand what the money was put out there for and what was done with it. And then when you compare, there's about $800,000 that was paid to $3 million that was not paid. You begin to get a different picture. And finally, now I don't get into what the council's judgment was, or the elected official's judgment was, in the council being paid whatever they were paid. But it's de minimis in comparison from a monetary standpoint to all of this other money that we're dealing with. And I just don't want this city council or the people of this city to get lost in the minutia. People make bad judgments, I understand that. And whether the council should get money or not get money, it's for the council to decide. But when you count the numbers, if you count all the elected officials, it's 10 of them. If every one of them got $5,000, it's $50,000. But let us not try to make policy about $50,000. Let's make policy about the entire amount of money we're dealing with and be mindful of that. And then, if they want to deal with it otherwise, that's fine. But I just want to make sure we all got the same number, that we're singing off the same sheet of music, even if we're in a different key, because I can't sing. But that was what I had on the audit. Anybody had any questions for me? I'd be glad to try to answer those.
For clarity, as it relates to, you mentioned 2018 to 2021, the 2022 audits were not included in that, is that correct?
2022 audit has not been completed. This council just last meeting authorized us to pay the CPA firm to begin the 2022 audit. And we're paying them $8,000 to do that. So once that's completed, we'll report whatever the findings are, and there may be additional findings. I don't know.
So far, they have discovered that there was $3 million that the city did not receive from the water company.
Correct. Sanitation fees that were not transferred over.
If
the city got it, if the water department spent it on city items, the water department items, but it just didn't go to the general fund.
If we may correctly speak, the water utility is part of the city, it's not a separate commission. And so the water utility didn't make the payment to the general fund. It's basically what we're saying.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to supplement Mr. Valley's.
You recognize
report.
Anthony?
This past weekend, I tend to keep a lot of the stuff that we get here sometimes. I came across some documentation, and my best laid plans were to give each and every one of you a copy of it. Mr. St. Columbia, Ms. Davis, and Mr. Franklin would have been here last year. Mr. Miller, Ms. Miller, and Ms. Harris would not have been here. So the people who were here got a copy of this report. And this is just kind of to address the issue of what everybody knew and what everybody didn't know. Let me say this at the outset. This is not a political statement. This is just a statement of fact. And I want to make that known because I saw chatter on the mayor's page, and I've had people in the community ask me, well, didn't you know this? Didn't you know that? Why? How did this happen? Because it's a lot of money. And as I was reading through this documentation from last year, it kind of refreshed my memory as to what happened last year at the table. Through all of those years, there were never any reports and those audit reports were not provided to the council. But there were never any reports that the sanitation fees were not being turned over. In February of 22, which would have been February of last year, we got a sizable packet that was presented to us by, at the time, Ms. Reba Wesley was the office manager for the water department. She came here to this council meeting and she said that the mayor had asked her to come and make this report to the council. And what Ms. Wesley told us is, I'm having problems paying the bills from the water department. She had a detailed listing of some people that she owed. She also had some documentation from the water department. These were office or inter-office communications she had sent a memo to Jeff Patterson, who was the acting director at the time, dated May 6th of 2021. So this is the year before. She sent a memo on May 6th of 2021 to Jeff Patterson, and she said, Mr. Jeff, I wanted to make you aware of the expenditures that have continued to exceed the funding the last several months. We are still losing money because customers have not been paying for various reasons. As of 5/5/2021, the bills are at $572,000, $572,345.78. This is monthly bills only and does not include payroll, although I realize we can't pay all the bills at one time. I'm concerned about getting months behind. She came back in October of 21 and she said, Mr. Jeff, you and I talked about the overwhelming expenses I had in May of this year, being May of 21, which is the first memo. She said, I am overwhelmed by the bills and no help. I have asked if I could cash in a couple of certificates of deposit, and I was told that I needed to hold off. The CDs will not catch me up, but I will be in a better position if I could pay some vendors that I should have been paid. She noted 3, Xylem, $81,869.52. She noted that she owed the city, this is sanitation fees, dated October 25th, 2021. She said $544,668.74. And she related that from July of 21 through October of 21. Then she had IRS at $46,539. She said, I'm at a point where I'm struggling to meet payroll, trying to keep the taxes down on a monthly basis, insurance, utilities, etc. She exchanged some communication with Mayor Smith in January of 22. January 4th, there was an email between Ms. Wesley and the mayor. He responded to her and he said, Reba, I really do not like the idea of cashing in any more CDs. We had a dust up at the meeting because at the time the council wasn't aware that CDs had been cashed in. And the email said any more CDs. I feel like if anything, we should be getting us in a position to restore those we had to break or cash before now. So that was kind of a wash of news to us. There were CDs that have been cashed in. But I do appreciate your cash flow issues. I also think we have more than enough Rescue Act funds to offset these bills and get caught up. The Rescue Act, that's what the pandemic pay was paid out of, wasn't it? Okay, so just factually correct. The internal communication was that not that there was supposed to be some large infrastructure project done from Rescue Act money. It was going to be used to catch up on the past due bills. That's what the communication was between the mayor and Ms. Wesley. If we can ever get our lost revenue issue settled, if we need to get us through the cash crisis, then we need a better financial management plan going forward. I know you have been asking for that also, and I have been doing my level best to help you get that, but for some reason it never happens. I'm going to make another stab at it. Okay, so I read this and then it kind of sat on me like a ton of bricks. We had conversations at this table all through 2022 about whether sanitation fees were being paid to the city. We had those communications. We would be getting responses like they paid for a few months, they're still behind, they're trying to catch up, but it was never quantified to us at the level that it exists. So when Ms. Wesley tallied $544,000 in October of 21, at that point, if you go by the audit reports, it was actually $2.6 or $2.7 million. That was not being reported at this table because that's a hair on fire moment, as I call it. $500,000 is merely 3-4 months or so of sanitation fees, and we would be. And then here's the more important part: when you read through the documentation, they related all of the issues in the water department. As some of you may remember, there was a big snowstorm in February of 21. Right. The city was shut down for an entire week plus. It's what gave rise to the ordinance that we have, where if the city is shut down on the due date of the water company, you get additional days to pay, because the city was shut down on the due date and didn't open back up until after the disconnect date. So because people never got a chance to make the first payment, the mayor said, we'll waive all of the due dates for your water bill. they related all of the financial crisis in the water department to repairs and to shortage of cash from the snowstorm. So as they were making these reports to us, it wasn't what it really is. And what we know now is the water department has been losing money since at least 2018. Since at least 2018, the water department has been underwater in terms of its revenue and expenses. But what was reported to us was less than the amount. And the cause was that the snowstorm. So from a council perspective, the water department's behind. And it's because of the snowstorm. They're catching up, they're paying some, so it gives the illusion that they will one day catch up. And what they had actually been doing, if you read the memos or in the email, is they had been cashing in CDs. That's how they kept making it. They were cashing in CDs, so it gave the illusion that they were actually okay financially, but they were not, and haven't been since 2018. What does all of this mean? I went back and watched the video from the meeting because I was kind of overwhelmed by what I was reading in light of what we know today and what was reported to us in 2021. The city attorney made a comment at the meeting. He said, maybe you guys need to do a rate study and assess whether the water department needs a rate increase because you cannot engage in deficit spending. I think that's where we are now. The water department has a negative cash flow. It does not make what it spends. And I think what we have to do now is consider the future, and that is determine whether or not we need a rate study to figure out what has to happen in the water department. You see, all of this infrastructure stuff is losing money already. Infrastructure starts to crumble. Of course, we are where we are. We're paying every dime that comes to the city is almost being paid now to the water department to repair its infrastructure. Almost every dime. And it's been exacerbated by the fact that the water department does not even break even. So that's why they're draining the sanitation fees. That was not reported to us. That was not reported to us. And if I hadn't come across this packet, I would still be scratching my head as to how we got it. But I read it now, I understand it. The water department misdiagnosed its own problem. They related it to February of 21. But it was so much deeper than that. They misdiagnosed their own problem. And so that's what got reported to the public, to the council, I assume to the mayor's office, to everybody. That's what was reported. So I use that to supplement Mr. Valley's audit report because it kind of gives you some understanding of what's going on in the water department. And I think it kind of puts the writing on the wall as to what we need to do going forward.
Mayor. In addition to what Mr. Ether is saying, Mr. Murdoch is working diligently to try to obtain grants and other funding sources for the city. Within that, they're going to require a rate study regardless, because they're going to want to see the water utility cash flow. And when I talked to Real Water, when we had the 2 10-inch pipes burst, and I was there at night and all those mosquitoes, I was talking to Real Water, and we began to discuss a computer analogy. When Mayor Smith first was elected, we did a rate study, and rates were increased, and they were tied to the consumer price index. Well, the rate study is similar to a computer. A lot of people monitor the computers, but if you have poor information going in the computer, you get poor information out of the computer. It's just printing what is placed in it. The same with the rate study. If the rate study, when Real Water is not giving the full information as to what are the issues on the ground with the water utility. Are you losing money? Are you profitable? What's the age of your equipment? What things do you need? Then when the water rates were increased at the beginning of the Smith administration, they were not increased enough. Now, we want a city attorney, I gotta continue to advise you, like Mr. Ether said in 2021, 2022, when I advised the body,
Deficit spending.
we can't engage in deficit spending. And the last administration did. Deficit spending is actually a crime in our constitution. You cannot engage in deficit spending. And we need to arrest the fall with the water utility. and with all parts of the city. We have to arrest the fall. The city council has to take some serious measures to pay the bills and to make sure the water utility is flowing. From my perspective, looking at the documents for as the audits, if the city actually were receiving the 700,000 to 1.2 million that the water utility is taking from the general fund, the city would be cash flowing. You're talking 1 year to covers your whole $588,000. And so the primary issue that the cities have from a cash flow standpoint is the water utility. The sanitation can't get equipment until the water utility stops taking its funds. Landfill would have more money if the sanitation fees were being paid, and it's a cycle. And the question is, what I asked the administration, okay, we're seeing how we're cycling up. One thing leads to another, which leads to another, leads to another. We've been cycling up. Have we begun to cycle down? If not, what is it going to take for us to begin to cycle back down to a point where the water utility is solvent? Because the debts are growing. If you look at what Chief of Staff said, $300,000 in 2018, $700,000 in 2019, $780,000 2020, 1.2 million 2021. And we don't know where it was last year because we haven't received the audit. So it's a cycle up as far as the water utilities dependency on the city's cash flow. Now, as a practical matter for those that's listening, and I'll yield to you in just a second. When you pay your water utility bill, a portion of that is sanitation fees, and they collect it when we pay our water utility bills. That's how it comes into the water utilities coffers. From there, it's supposed to go to the general fund. And that's what we're talking about is one entity of the city is collecting the money, but they're not remitting the funds to the proper account. And that's where we are.
And also, I like to add, out of their rescue act money, the body did approve over $800,000 in pump rental, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Anthony, Ms. Davis. So majority of the money that we got from the rescue act, we spent $800,000 in renting pumps. So that's basically where your rescue act money, a big chunk of it almost, because one meeting we came in, had a special call meeting after right before it was an emergency meeting we had, that he was saying that we need to spend, we got hit with $400,000 in pumps because Zidon was gonna come pour the pumps. You remember that, Mr. Anthony?
Yes, sir.
So then we were hit again, that they was gonna come take their pumps, and we had to give another $400,000. Missed it, I think. So the city has been getting hit with pumps, and now I think, Mr. Murphy, if I'm correct, we're down to 2 pumps at this moment, right? Three pumps. So
Right.
we from 8 to 3. So that's where a lot of your money went as well. And I try to make sure in this report that I gave you all, and the ICE is welcome to get one with the money that we received from the loan that we received. We spent $138,000. And we got 59,000 left. So I want to make sure everybody know what we're doing with this money. I think that when I was on the city council, my goal was to try to make sure that the arguing and fighting that people say we did, I wanted some understanding, and we wasn't getting that. Every time you ask for something, you tell somebody's on the fish bank fishing, and we got these leaks. They tell you, oh, the mayor authorized I can go fishing on the fish bank in the city truck, which when I would say somebody, people get mad, but those are a lot of the reasons that we in this shape. We had several leaks, and we still now we're down to a handful of leaks, but it was things that I was trying to say then, and in this administration that we're trying to correct all those things that happened. Mr. Marcus got a thing called accountability that we should have had a long time ago, and our people are accountable. So those are some of the issues that we had when I was at the side of the table, Mr. Valley.
One of the things to also expound on what the 3 gentlemen have said, there wasn't clearly, the connection wasn't clearly explained. Here's the connection that I'm speaking of. There are 3 things as relates to When we're talking about pumps, we're talking about on the sewer side of the system. You've run those over and over again. We got to pay for the rental. That's one cost. Then there's diesel that goes into it. That's a second cost. And then there's overtime that's generated. Those three things are constantly working together. And they're spoken about independently, but they're actually working together.
Yeah.
And when they're working together, that creates a larger expense. And we only looked at, well, we need to pay this person for rental of pumps. But you're getting eaten alive on overtime. And at the same time, you're getting eaten alive on diesel because in those three factors, and Mr. Murdoch, when he first came, he tried to explain that we need to get off rental, fix as many pumps as we can because we have a solvency issues related to it because we're just giving money away. Because you're renting, paying overtime and paying for diesel. I think diesel was $3,000 to $5,000 every 3 to 5 days or something like that.
5,000 every 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, well, that's what I can explain that when he comes, but those three factors is part of what I said, cycling up. That's what I'm talking about. This is more and more pumps you had, and all those three factors working together, you're cycling up, in addition to all the other inefficiencies in the water utility, and we have to begin to cycle those down. And I think we have begun some, but with that, I yield to Mr. Murdoch or to
Mr. Guy, do you have anything else for us? Not in this section of the agenda. Yes, sir. I think Mr. Murdoch is going to report on the leaks. I certainly don't want to steal his thunder. I stole his thunder last time. But I did see where you paid some local contractors a lot of money. Yeah. And I just asked the council to pay attention to that. And remember that Mr. Murdoch said you need to pay the guys who work here every day. But once you approve the report paying those guys. Right. Mr. Murdoch, I think it's your time on the leaks.
Mr. Murdoch was coming. Mr. Murdoch will give us a report on leaks.
Good afternoon, Mayor and
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
Council. We are making, I think, significant progress, particularly on the west side. The aim right now is to reduce the amount of continuing water loss during what ought to be a dormant period in the day, 2 a.m. in the morning. And we're still losing 700 to 900 gallons of water a minute, which means that we still have a significant number of leaks on the west side. Rural Water has 2 people here this week, basically just assisting us in looking for leaks, to find leaks on the west side. At the same time, we are diligently looking for leaks here on the east side in Helena to avoid having the same type of catastrophic meltdown over here that we had over there. And I don't want to overemphasize, I do need to emphasize. How did we get here? Well, we got here because of inefficient workers during the repair work. When I got here, there was a backlog of leaks that went back as far as April of 22. My history has been to always have a leak log. There's always going to be leaks in a water system. There's no way to avoid that. But it's inexcusable to have the amount of leaks that were in the system to say that nobody's paying attention. Literally, nobody's paying attention to how you drive down the street, you see the water, but nobody's paying attention. The number of crews that were working when I got here was 1. They were not very effective. They were not very efficient. They were not being managed very well. They did not have adequate material. We talked about a dump truck and tractor, they did not have adequate equipment. So the proper utilization of the resources obviously is to get the right people on the job, get them adequate equipment and materials to do the job. We've got private contractors working now, and they've got crews that are doing as many as 6 leaks per crew per day. Had we had that level of efficiency throughout prior years, the leak backlog would not be where it is now. That does not excuse the fact that the system is old, or still got the galvanized pipe. It's a work, but it's a work that can be managed, but it needs to be managed. That's what I'm saying. But I don't want to beat a dead horse. Again, we're steadily trying to staff adequately so that we have enough people. Our equipment looks pretty good. We've got enough equipment when we combine the equipment on both sides. There's enough equipment. There's 2 backhoes, there's a track hoe. But we need to get the staff, the motivated staff, to, once we catch up, stay caught up. That's what we got to do. We got to catch up, stay caught up. Don't get into this terrible predicament that we got ourselves into. To turn the page, Betty Searcy from Rural Development is going to be here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to talk about other opportunities for funding. We do need some equipment. We do not have a crew truck. We have pickup trucks. We don't have food trucks that carry tools and equipment. I think one of the things that I noticed, we don't have a truck that has an air compressor on it to run pneumatic tools. We don't have a truck that even can carry a ladder. Has a rack on it. No crew truck. We got one truck that has some toolboxes on it. So we don't quite yet look like a utility. But so we're a work in progress. But we got to continue to be vigilant and work at being what we're going to become eventually, an effective, efficient utility operation. So we're continuing to do that. Any questions that anybody might have? Yes, sir.
Of course, I was going to ask you about. I congratulate you on the leaks you fixed. You fixed a lot of them. I know because I've seen some of them done. But there's some people here tonight that are continuing on these leaks, and I'd like to, because some of them are in the audience here. I'd like them to tell you, since you're standing right there, let them tell you about the leaks they know about. So I'd like to ask some of them if they'll step forward and. Yes, sir. Yeah. Tell us about your leak, sir.
I don't have any water leaks, but ditches in front of my house. I've sent videos to the mayor and Ms. Miller here that showed when it rains there. I had water halfway up the rims on my pickup truck sitting in my yard. Broke my fence down. I've had to repair all that, and nothing ever gets done about ditches. It's terrible. Trees are leaning over the road down through there. They're falling. When they fall, you can't get out. You have to go all the way back around. You can get out on the highway.
You got water in. You got a water leak there.
That's not a water leak. He's talking about when it rains. It has many trees.
It's terrible thing. I've seen water.
On Springdale.
Down the middle of the road.
In front of by John Park.
Springdale.
Well, me and the chief of staff have been down there, and we're trying to work with that issue.
Okay.
That is not when the trees fall. Me and the chief of staff, Ms. Miller, you came through as a tree. Wait. So I am when something happens. Me and the chief of staff, we're out here trying to correct those issues. We're just 2 people of many. And if citizens, when things happen, as you said, you saw me some videos. I don't know where you saw them to, but I'm always traveling Springdale Road to try to make sure that when it rains,
people that's coming from Helena to West Helena to Helena from West Helena. I try to make sure we make sure that path is clear. And when it stormed and the tree fell in the middle of the road and the people at Faith Outreach Church was getting out of church, heading down Springdale Road, it was a block. And me and some guys came from Marvel to help us take care of that issue. So we are aware of that. And the ditches, that's why we've been asking for equipment to dig out these ditches. So that's not a water leak that when it rains.
Okay, but there's
that issue.
There were some people in the audience about a water
So we
leak.
thank you for that. We're working on that.
Okay,
Go ahead, Ms. Miller.
So, Mr. Rogers, correct? Okay, so whenever I went to his home and I did take the videos, and I think we talked about this, there was a night, and I can't remember who made the presentation, but there were some engineers who were scheduled to come in, and Mr. Rogers did sign a form, I believe, and I think that's what he's referencing. We're trying to figure out where are we with that right now.
yeah,
I don't believe, so Ms. Mayor Stevens came.
Right, he
This
came.
gentleman, somebody else. We have not gotten a report from the engineer on either of those. But we've done some amelioration, with Mayor Stevens, we did some, digging of the ditch. Over there where he is, you got two problems. One, somebody has concreted over the culvert at the church. I can't think of the name of the church now. It's a church across the street from John Farr. So that shouldn't be going in the pitch, be going in it. And then you got a man who lives there. There's no house, but there's a man who lives there. He's got a whole lot of junk and waste that clogs up the ditch. And they go by and they clean it out periodically, and then he goes right back and fills the ditch up. I don't know who this gentleman is, but he's walking down the road today on a walk. They're stopping up the ditch. I don't know where this gentleman lives, but right, you live by John Farr, in that area, by the church.
Yeah, he lives right now.
Yeah. And so,
That side of the ditch of the road, it looks like a beaver went in there and built camp all up
Yeah.
there in the trees.
right, it's
Keep falling over, it's caving on.
Does the ditch need to be dug out? Does the ditch need to be dug out?
It needs to be done, it needs a little more than that, so.
Up the road. For the. Real.
Yeah.
Clean the city ditch down there, so the water, instead of running down the highway, will run off in those ditches.
Right,
I didn't recognize.
so, yes, sir, Mr.
Ms. Galloway has an issue on some water leaks. I'd like her.
It's not what's the same, it's drainage issue and it's a raw sewage pipe that's patched, so mine's a drainage issue as well. It's a ditch that runs in front of this.
Hold on, Miss Galloway,
She doesn't have a raw sewage problem. She calls it that, but it's not raw sewage.
but let's pause for a second.
It's a pipe that.
Pause, let's pause for a second. Ms. Galloway, now, if you're gonna speak from the audience, then we would suggest you come to the mic. Because the people on Zoom and the people on YouTube need to be able to hear what you have to say. Now, as it relates to this meeting,
Can't do that.
Mayor, Mr. St. Columbia, you have allowed audience people to speak. Once you allow audience people to speak in a meeting, you cannot stop them from speaking because the freedom, the Constitution comes into effect, First Amendment. And so we need to go through our agenda, but if whatever they want to say, they have a right to say it.
I
Now,
think we should give them opportunity.
wait, Mr. St. Columbia. The city's policy is you have to get on the agenda. But once you allow one person to speak in a public forum, you open it up. But this goes against the city's policy where they have to call, get on the agenda. And the way this was done, as it relates to this one meeting, the people who have something to say have a right to say something because you all open up the floor and we cannot regulate their content at this moment. But next meeting, I suggest we go back to normal meeting form. If they want to talk, then they get on the agenda as you follow procedure. But I don't want the city council to violate anybody's First Amendment rights because you opened it up tonight. And I just want to caution the city council on that. You open it up, you ask the people to speak. They have a right to say what they want to say. on the meeting, we can't stop them. But at the future meetings, everybody needs to be on the agenda. So Mayor, in the future, my St. Columbia, others, make sure they're on the agenda if they want to address the body. Because we can regulate time, place, but we cannot regulate content. And once an audience member has a right to speak, if you stop them, that is a violation of First Amendment rights. Now, I strongly suggest next council meeting, we go back to the other format to get on the agenda. But as far as this meeting, those in the audience, if they want to address you, they can address you because you allow two of them to speak. But wait, we're gonna do it within the agenda. Mr. Murdoch was speaking on the leaks, and we never got back within the leaks. But I don't want to disclose, I don't want to stop anybody from speaking that's here. We'll come back to you, Ms. St. Columbia, we'll make a note of that because you open up the floor. The council allowed you to open up the floor, it went through. It is what it is at this moment. But we do need to
I
go.
think the next person will want to speak about a leak, I think. Or somebody's speaking about a leak.
Yes,
Okay, who was that?
he wasn't talking about me, but I do have some.
Will you come to the microphone, please? And I think you still haven't done the leak report. Please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Yes, Helena. There are leaks at McDonough and Franklin and at Beach. But I'm curious, where are people supposed to report the leaks? Because I have been wondering that, and this doesn't seem like a very effective way of dealing with it, but I'm wondering, do we post them on Facebook? Where are we supposed to call to?
The water
report leaks?
department.
Mr. Murdoch, will you come to the microphone and address that issue, please?
And those leaks that you're talking about, they are in Helena.
We'll let Mr. Murdoch do it. But I didn't hear what you said.
How do you report a leak?
Place to report a leak.
Oh, okay. And that's a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned that. The appropriate place to report a leak is not to the mayor's office. The mayor doesn't fix leaks directly, and people call the mayor's office when they have water issues. That's not, the most efficient number that there is what? One. Is one. So you make one call, you make that one call to the water department and you report your issues to the customer service department in the water department. And they will ensure that I get that message, that it's properly handled. So you don't call the fire department when you have a water issue, you don't call the police department when you have a water issue, you don't call the mayor's office when you have a water issue. You have a water issue, call the water department. Your call will be cataloged, it will be time and date stamped. The issue will be recorded. Someone will be dispatched to investigate what the issue is. And we will fix it just as expeditiously as possible. Okay. Great question. Yeah, that number is area code 870-817-7460.
And actual customer service.
There was something else that I wanted to say. It escapes me for the moment.
Was it the leak report? Was it the leak report?
Well, I mean, the legal report is I don't have a legal report in front of me right now. But the legal report is a running diary of leaks called in and repair. And I try to I'm trying to get our culture to the point that at the beginning of every week, that leak report can be emailed to the mayor's office, because people invariably will not follow instructions and they will call the mayor's office. That anybody that's in a city office will have access to that leak report, and they can give you feedback as to where you are. You can, I have a leak at 123 Main Street, and somebody can say, yes, your leak is recorded, you're on the leak log, and here's where you are. It's been one call, and a crew will be there to fix it in some reasonable time frame.
Do we have a copy of the leak report in here?
Those are the things that have been fixed. Those are the things that have been fixed and been charged, been paid for. The
Do we have a report on,
that would give you some idea of what's been done.
Okay.
because I reported my leak back in January and I don't know if anybody's been up there.
Then have you seen it running water up there anymore?
There's water coming out tonight. As we speak, water's coming out of the street, onto the street. On Claw Pond, Vernon Street.
I know.
Yep.
We
It
addressed
was
it,
there tonight. I checked it before I left home to come to this meeting. And I reported back in January. And that has not been attended to. So I kind of wondered, and there are other leaks, these people were talking about tonight.
As you're aware, though, that when you heard about there's other leaks, you see how.
Well,
fast-
you know, and you can be absolutely accurate. And
I am because I'm reporting it. to you.
Gentlemen, I ask that you all not speak over each other. That's why I keep speaking, then you can ask some further questions.
You can be entirely accurate. As I had mentioned before, we have leaks that are probably close to a year old
Oh, yeah.
in the system.
Well, this has been January.
Now, what we attempt to do is address leaks by the level of their severity.
Sure.
The most severe leaks first, those that are on the distribution lines, service lines are secondary priority leaks. Those that are wasting the most amount of water, we address those with the highest level of priority. So you obviously have a minor leak. It's a discomfort, it's an inconvenient, but it's not
Well, don't
public urgency. I'm saying the leak.
But somebody had one on Facebook where we tore down a house and they showed it on Facebook. Are you aware of that? It showed pictures and everything with water coming out of the ground. Right where we tore down the house.
Mr. St. Columbia, that report was an absolute falsehood. It was a lie. It was untrue. You shouldn't believe it. You understand that?
Do what now?
That report was an absolute falsehood. It was a lie. It was untrue. You should not believe it. You understand that? There was a leak on 8th Street.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with demolition.
On Facebook, that's why.
It had nothing to do with demolition. And it has been repaired.
Okay, good. I'm glad you cleared that up.
Well, he actually commented on that posting on Facebook.
Yeah.
Said the picture is worth 1,000 words or something like that. But I don't mean to divert the conversation, but I think this is a teachable moment for our citizens. I had a lady who stopped me around lunchtime at Walmart, and she said, I got a house next to me and it's overgrown. And I posted it on Facebook and the mayor said he would take care of it, but I haven't heard anything. He said, ma'am, don't do that. And I said, listen, you need to make a report to code enforcement. I said, she said, well, the mayor, he said he would take care. I said, but don't you understand if somebody says something to him, he's going to try to respond to you. And he may honestly intend to try to get back to you, but you're doing yourself a disservice by trying to report everything that happens in the city to the mayor. There are departments that handle these issues. Well, when somebody breaks into your house, you don't call the mayor, you call the police. If your house is on fire, you don't call the mayor, you call the fire department. If your trash doesn't get picked up, don't call the mayor, call sanitation. And so I was trying to explain to her, and I was very nice about it. I may be a little, heightened at this point, but I said, what you need to do is call code enforcement. I told her I'll be in the building in another hour. I'll walk back and tell her myself, and that's exactly what I did. What I didn't do is it didn't say, come to the city council meeting tonight and make sure he knows that you got grass growing up. I didn't say, I saw on Facebook that somebody said something happened. People run to Facebook for attention. Councilmen invite people to council meetings to report problems for attention. Send them to the people who do the job every day. And if you don't get satisfaction in a department, then make your complaint up the chain. But if you didn't call and say my trash didn't get picked up, or I got a house next to me that's overgrown, if you didn't make the minimum effort to get the people who do the work to do the work, why are you complaining on Facebook and why are you coming to a council meeting to complain? No disrespect to the people who are here. You are obviously told to come and do it. But that is not the appropriate way. And I appreciate the question about how does it work. I did appreciate that question because it gave me an opportunity to say what I'm saying, which is, Ms. Galloway, please. I'm not talking either. I'm not talking either. But Mr. St. Columbia did open the door for people in the audience. That has been inappropriate at council meetings for years. We have had an ordinance in place for years that says if you want to get on the agenda, and that is no fault of your own. If he said, stand up and tell us what your problem is, he was out of line when he did that. The ordinance says get on the agenda. That's why I don't do it. That's why a lot of people at the table don't do it. There's a process. So we spend an inordinate amount of time dealing with things that aren't on the agenda when they could have been dealt with by people who do it every day. And if they aren't, then that's what you report. I called the water department about a leak. Nothing happened. I called sanitation about trash that wasn't picked up. Nothing happened. I called code enforcement. Nothing happened. But at least be able to say, I made the call, document it. If you call, document it. I would tell every citizen, if you have a problem and you want to make a report, document it and bring the documentation. I did this and nothing happened. And then let the mayor deal with his employees. Mr. St. Columbia, you know that's out of line to bring people into the room.
I didn't bring them in here. They were here.
But you told them to stand up and start
Well, I
talking.
asked them.
And you know that's out of line. And you put them in the position that they're in right now.
Yeah.
Because you know that that's not right.
People have a right to voice their opinion.
They do in the process that has been set forth by the council going all the way back to consolidation. It is not new, and you know it.
If I may, the mayor put before you all out of abundance of caution, he gave all a general ledger of all of the leaks that you have fixed so far, totaling $138,159.50, with a balance of $59,840.50 left from the $200,000 appropriation that you all made. What he was asking that you all do to ratify it. Now, he did this, you all already appropriated it. He's coming back. He's being extremely cautious to make sure the council knows what he spent, who he paid, how much he paid him, in full disclosure. He's told me privately because he sat in the seat and asked over and over and over and over again, what you spend during the emergency. So he doesn't want to be a hypocrite, is what he told me privately. And so that's why you're going through this again, so you'll know what it is. And he simply wants you all to vote to ratify. Okay, here they are. And for the listening audience, you don't have a copy of this, over $200,000 appropriated. And it appears that the city has spent $6,800 with Andre Crawford Plumbing, Paraglue Light Water Cables, $2,880, Water and Wastewater Services LLC, $7,700. Smith and Weiland Engineers, $3,270. Seabob and Construction Company, $1,800. Qualamon Plumbing, $28,300.37. L&L Municipal Supplies and Tools, $801.13. Calibration Controls Inc., $1,044.23. Calibration Controls Inc., $20,912. And Qualabon Plumbing, a second payment in the amount of $62,456.01. And Calibration and Controls Inc., $2,195.76, a total of $138,159.50 of the $200,000 that was appropriated, with the remainder to be spent of $59,840.50. That's going towards all the leaks that the city council authorized. And the mayor's asking that you all ratify these expenditures this evening.
And also, I'll be happy if anybody wants a copy of this to see. You're welcome to get a copy. I did not want anybody, I don't want anybody to feel like that this is hidden, it's a hidden agenda. I'll give a copy to the paper as well, but I want you all to know what this money was spent on. Any money that is spent out of this emergency, you will know where it went and who it went to. So that'll keep down some confusion. So I asked the body to vote to ratify these expenditures from the water department. I give you all just a little time to look at it. See what you like to do with it.
Well, I make a motion that this is just to go ahead and pay this.
They already been, I just want you, they already been paid, but I want y'all just to approve with me. Ms. Miller moves to
ratify the payment.
ratify the water expenditures.
Second.
Mr. Anthony seconds the motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Ms. Harris? Yes. Mr. Etherly
Yes.
and Ms. Miller. Vote 5-0.
I'm sorry, yes.
It was nothing, yes.
I'm sorry, I was.
So,
Mayor, can I ask just one
Yes, ma'am.
question? So I'm looking at this and I know that these are probably two separate things, but I'm looking at some of the cost and you know, we have like 128,000, 120,000, 162,000. And I know for a fact that that was necessary. The labor costs and all of that.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask, are we any closer to getting employees within the city? And I think he's already left, but are we any closer to hiring some people?
Out of the 2 to 3 people that you are, one, yeah, we hired one, and the other person we hired.
Field person, the other person got another job.
Right. So,
By the time we got it approved.
so, you know, the person was,
You see
I
that?
would think.
well, he hired the person, the second person that he hired, tried to hire, they were good. Somebody else had picked him up. They had waited on us and they had picked him up. So he still got applicants he's looking at, but it's just tough. You know, nobody's want to leave, but their department is coming to us. And we're still underpaid. So I mean, but we're trying, Ms. Miller. I thank you, but we're trying. I thank the council for doing what they do to help the city, but it's hard to get somebody to leave their department, their job to come here when they're making 22. And I know it seems like a lot of money, but folks are making more money to elsewhere to come here, and we need those. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Lakeview or Elaine, their person left, and they're looking for somebody. So you have to. It's tough with water, sewer. It is very tough. As you look at these bills that we pay, you see how much they charge us to fix a leak. And our people that are working for us, you see the money that these folks spend, that we spend on these people, it's like it's a slap. So it's kind of hard. And our folks are now getting licensed. I think we got somebody certified in pump repair, got a certificate in pump repair. So Mr. Market has, after than Mr. Eaton, he's got a certificate in pump repair and pumps. So,
One of the things that Ms. Miller, I think you bring up is a very valid point that the chief of staff and the mayor were discussing earlier this evening. Economies of scale. We just spent $138,000 to outside agencies to do our repairs. At some point, we need to look at more thoroughly, what does it cost to maintain these employees for the water utility within this entire balance that we're doing? Because the city spent $138,000 and still going to spend another $59,000 on leaks. At the last council meeting, I think Mr. Murdoch had said at that point, it was 175,000 leaks, 175 leaks when he started, and they were down. They had already did over 150 that they had repaired, and so that's when he came with 175. I don't know how many were added since then. So that was a question I was trying to ask him before he left. but the leak issue is ongoing and the council, yes, sir.
There's one thing that this report would never show you. Arkansas Rural Water, of which we are a member,
Right.
had 2 or 3 crews that worked on leaks as well at no cost.
Right.
They just used our equipment. And so that won't be reflected in here. So all of the leaks weren't repaired by Parker and Crawford and Qualabong. Arkansas Rural Water did some, and certain our guys did some too. So this 138,000 is really
A drop in the bucket.
partial report on what it's taken to fix these leaks. And also I want to point out the Paragould light, water and cable is for testing. We made every effort to get out of the boil order as quickly as possible. And so if you drive it to Paragould, they'll test it a bit quicker than sending it to Little Rock. And it ended up not working out for us. But we didn't have the problem you had with Little Rock. For example, the last sample we sent before we got off the boil order, the people in Little Rock said it was too old to test. Well, too old to test is totally on them. Because we collect the water, take it to the local health department. Their courier takes it from there to Little Rock to the lab. And it's supposed to be observed for like 24 hours. And somehow they let it go beyond 30 hours and then they declared it was too old to test. And there was nothing we could do. We had no control over it. And that was one of those things where we expressed some frustration with the whole process in terms of the boil order. And then the next day or 2, 3 days, whatever it was, we did get off the boil order, but we had just a bunch of different things that happened with those boil orders. And we tried to use Paragould and spent the $2,800. That's 2 or 3 different tests to get off soon. But it didn't end up working out that way. But anyway, at any point, our water has been deemed safe by the health department, and our water is tested daily by our operators, and they send those samples and those results to Little Rock on a regular basis, and people can find it online. And I hear people in conversations, I see people on Facebook saying they wouldn't drink our water. And I understand them saying that, but they're only fooling themselves because they're getting ice from anywhere. You have no idea what's in it. So if you're not going to drink public water, don't consume anybody's ice. Just don't do it. Or you're lying to yourself. Because that water came from somewhere to make the ice. And you don't know where, and you never will. But the same health department tests this water all over the state of Arkansas. And those folks who saying they're going over to Tunica to eat it and drink and all that stuff, they have the same kinds of problems. And in Germantown, they had diesel in their water. And that's not to say anything about Germantown. Things happen, is the point. But our water has been deemed safe by our health department. So it's a safe, it's much trust you put in the health department, what you put in this water. I drink it, my family drinks it, we use it, we bathe in it, we do whatever we have to do with water. And so I'd encourage anybody else to use our water. I don't know where we are on our agenda.
Landfill report.
Landfill.
Scale report and quote.
On the landfill scale, that they recommended we spend $33,000 to upgrade our scale. The question was which proposal was better, and it was $33,000. On that proposal is going to bring us into the 21st century. It's computerized, and if one of the parts go out, you can replace that one part as opposed to what we're having to do now is just overhaul the whole system. And then there was another offer like $24,000, so a few $1,000s cheaper, but it's kind of replacing what you already have. It's subject to rust and all this other stuff. So they recommended we do the electronic one for $33,000. And so we're asking for approval as money becomes available to make that upgrade. Right now you have a position on your scale that's not weighing appropriately, and you don't know if it's weighing in your favor or against you. That is, if it's underweighing, which you're losing money, or if it's overweighing, which means you're cheating your customer. We don't know. And it may vary from day to day, but we need to replace that so we can get the seal on this scale. And this is going to be in addition to the money you already approved to clean it out, the $48,000 that's already been approved, but now we're going to fix it.
I'd like to see the treasurer. Do we have the $33,000?
Well,
I think he said Wednesday comes.
I don't think that, what you got is the question. We pay it when it comes available. We just need the approval to do it. Because you're gonna have to do it if you're gonna keep it laying for you.
I understand that.
Yeah. I mean, we can wait on it, that's what you wanna do, but that ain't gonna change.
What is the company?
It was- I don't know off the top of my head, it's in one of the packets we gave out before, we've given it out 2 or 3 times.
Did we do a competitive bid waiver? So is it Clean Harbor, Mr. Ballard?
Clean Harbor cleaned it out, so it's not,
Okay,
we've approved 8,000
yeah, and
and then it'll be
48,000.
Tammy watched it.
And why the city, why
You make
the
the
discussion, I wanna say this, you know, I understand that we are
Fairbanks scale,
Fairbanks scale,
thank you, Tammy.
yeah, $21,574.90. I wanna say this, why they're looking over.
3,000.
This is, yes, this is $24,480.10.
That's enough.
It's another one. It's
Is it 33,000?
$33,812.20.
Right, so at one of those meetings, we had a discussion and Tammy was here and we were trying to figure out which was the best one. And that's the recommendation that they sent. And of course, she's watching on whatever, Zoom or YouTube and texting me. So she said Fairbanks, and she tells me that I'm welcome, and 33 is the way to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you all think about that? Listen, I want to say this. Our water department, all our employees who make up this city are doing the best they can to take care of the city. And I think that I hear a lot of rhetoric on Facebook and throughout the community. But this is, and I think, to me, we're fighting, trying to make the city safe and better. Our police department, our fire department, street sanitation, water, all departments to make sure that we're doing, even the city, not to leave you all out, you all are doing a job to make this city better. And I know we get a lot of flack from people, but I don't care. I'm glad to serve with the people I serve with. I thank you all for doing what you all do to make this city better. We hear a lot of stuff, but I don't care. We keep moving forward. We're doing what we need to do, tear these houses out. And if the community would just get aboard, if you don't like something, hey, you don't tell me and I'll try to fix it. Tell the chief of staff we'll try to fix it. Stop complaining and help fix the issue. We're tearing down houses everywhere. When people get on Facebook and say, when you're coming over here, we get there. I mean, to try to move equipment, we don't have it. We got a regular trailer that we pull in equipment trying to get these houses torn down and try to make Helena look good for people to come. When the governor decides to come here, it'll be a different place that she was told about. That's what I'm looking for. Nobody's gonna come here when they see everybody in town complain, but you won't pick up a hoe, a shovel, you won't bring a bag of ice to water to these people out in the field working. We may not pay a lot, but this is what I've done in department head meetings. I take my money and the other department heads take their money and we feed those department heads and we appreciate them to discuss issues. The city attorney as well. We've had our pockets to make sure these employees eat, to say thank you, because just a nice gesture goes a long way. As the mayor, I don't care what you all think about me. I don't care. Thank God I bring my own whatever I got to make this thing work. You talk about me, thank you. The more you talk about me, the more I'm gonna clean up, the more I'm gonna do. I don't need nothing from y'all, because my thing is, when I see these faces of the city council and these people in this community are happy that we're tearing down houses, Miss Miller, Miss Harris, Miss St. Clement, Miss Davis, Mr. Miller, Mr. Ethel, I thank you all for voting to make sure we can turn this community around. Yes, everybody got on the city council for different reasons. Some got to help, some got to just say, hey, I got a seat. So even with me, I got here to try to make it a better place. I don't have anything bad to say about any administration. Only thing I can say about this one is like a truck. It's gonna run over you if you get in the way. Cause we're trying to make it clean, better, and safe. And I wish that the people in the city stop complaining about it and help me. Help all of us. Everybody at this table trying to do something to make this community better. Because I don't want to go no other place. If I fail, Helena fail. I don't care about the treatment, the way you treat me, because I don't live the way people treat me anyway. I'm here to do something that hadn't been done before, hadn't been done in a while. Let's clean it up, get some attention to this community so we can get some jobs, we can get better healthcare. I'm tired of taking my folks to other cities for healthcare. I want to get healthcare right here at home. I want my children to be educated right here in Phillips and Helena-West home. I'm going nowhere else. I got a nice house that I worked hard for. I want to make sure it's safe. So if you got all these, if you can complain about that, let me see you reach out your hand to tell the police station, tell the fire department, the guys who pick up your trash, the jobs you wouldn't do. Let me hear you post on Facebook. Thank you for our public works department. Thank you for a decent chief of staff. Thank you for a good city attorney, a treasurer, clerk. You know, I don't need your praises, but it would help somebody else because I get my strength come from the Lord. But we got to look at some of these people don't have encouragement. It takes some real strength to come here and work in this city when you're getting beat down daily by the people in your community, ride by your house, want to run you over, but get on Facebook and call you stupid and crazy. You know, I think we need to understand how we beat up our leaders in our community. When we go to church, how we love the Lord. When we get on Facebook and beat up our leaders, something got to change, and that's just where my heart is. I would like to see this community come together and try to work to build something. We got people looking at us. We got people who are trying their best. When we tear down houses, they tear down their house. They're trying to compete with us. And I know it's off the subject, but that was just in my heart to tell you, we need to stop fighting against each other. I don't care what nobody did. I know what I'm doing. When I was on the city council, yes, Ms. Harris, I acted a fool, but I wasn't acting a fool on no woman. I was acting a fool about these leaks. I was acting a fool about these houses. I was acting a fool about the way our people weren't getting treated. And not when I said people, it's all my people, all people. I have no color, no race, no nothing. My thing is trying to make sure that while you sit here complaining, you talking about you gonna move. I'm sorry that you're leaving, but help us to roll on. Look in your community. It's much better than it was 12 months ago. And Mr. Bad, I get back to you, but I just want to let y'all know we try to take care of each other, stop killing each other with words.
3,000.
The $33,000 invoice is what we want to talk about. And I'm sorry, but this is something I need to say.
All right, Mayor, we can return to the agenda. We're asking approval of the scale repair by Fairbanks at $33,000 as the monies are available to pay it. They're not gonna come until we can pay them. We're not gonna call them until the treasurer clerk says that we can pay them.
You just need a motion. You just
Yeah,
need a
just in the
motion.
motion to approve that expenditure.
I like to make a motion to approve that expenditure, but you said 33,000.
Ms. Coates has the exact number.
I got it, $33,812.20 by Fairbanks. Miss Miller moves to pay the invoice as the money comes available. Mrs. Davis seconds the motion. It's right here, Mr. Clinton. So, any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
St. Columbia,
Yeah.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Epping.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We already talked about the Reed's lawsuit.
Yes, it was tabled.
So it was tabled, so we're gonna go to.
The proposed truck purchase, Mayor, we need more information. So we'll come back to that. It's an articulated truck. We've had a guy that's been trying to sell us one for $700,000 brand new. And this is one in Dallas that's a 2014 model for like $140,000. They got 25, they're supposed to have 25-year lifespan. So yeah, this is that huge truck.
Right. So we got other landfill business.
25-year lifespan it's supposed to. So we're gonna come back to that. We need some more information. May need to send Bruce to Dallas to check it out.
How old is the truck again?
Huh?
What's the model of that truck again?
2014.
2014 model is one that's under consideration. Yeah. As well as the new one, but you know, I think if we can do for 140, we may be better off. Then other landfill business, I can't think of what, I can't think of anything right now, but I want to give you the housing authority tonnage report. As of about 5 this evening, 1,499.39 tons at $35 per ton, or $52,478.65. Is what we've hauled to the landfill by use of the contractor from July the 19th until today. The last ticket time on here, and I'll forward it by email to you guys, is 5:14 p.m. today. So I believe we've cleaned off at least 11 of the spaces. We tore down 16 buildings, and we've cleaned 11 of them, I believe, except for the concrete foundation. But the contractor said they need to bring in a bigger track hoe to do that. That these foundations are thicker than any foundation they've ever seen on an apartment complex. These buildings would never have fallen down. They had like 18-inch thick foundations. They don't usually have that kind of concrete, you know. So they're working to get that part up. We've submitted a bill to the housing authority. They usually pay on the 1st, and we may get some money. We'll see. They asked us for some more information earlier today, and I don't know where we are on that. I was out with the cleanup crew. They took down a house on 9th Street and 2 on Anderson today, so we were out doing that. Then we can go to item C, Mr. Mayor. It's a lot of time gone with just item C, but the hauling services approval. We're looking for the city attorney to tell us how to deal with this. What we're doing, we're paying a guy to haul $75 per hour. And you know, the mayor has a spending limit of $5,000. He was hauling from different locations. So the mayor and I said that they were different contracts. The city attorney says he believes those are serial contracts. So we stopped the guy from hauling. And he said that we could present it to you guys, asking you all to approve an hourly rate. And that would be considered, I guess, an exception to the serial contract. If we approved an hourly rate to pay, and that anybody who hauled at that rate could be paid for that hauling. But I'll let him speak for himself.
Yes, the reason I said it would be a serial contract is a series is all about hauling. One of the solutions that I've always suggested is if you're paying a standard rate, then you could pay that standard rate and everybody would get the same standard rate. Either if you want to work for the city, this is the rate we'll pay for hauling. That's it. And if you approve the standard rate, then it's the same for everybody. And you can, if one hauler wants to haul, another hauler, and et cetera, this is the rate that we pay. And that's the way we could deal with the serial contract, because the person would know, the city would know that we're paying for hauling, it's gonna be at this hourly rate every time. And the contractor would know if they're trying to haul with the city, they would pay. And I suggest that on other services, so you will know just in particular what the city is going to pay, how much is they going to pay, and the type of expense we're going to have as a city. What is the standard rate, what's chief of staff or mayor?
What we had been paying was $75 per hour. And of course, they're told we may be able to get by with that in Eastern Arkansas. The standard rate, if you ask me, is like $150 an hour. But we're asking for $75 an hour for 5 tons, for a minimum of 5 tons. If it's less than 5 tons, we want to pay like $35 an hour. That is, so the 5 tons, they're gonna need a big truck to haul that. That's 10,000 pounds. They ain't gonna be able to haul that in a pickup truck.
You said for the 75.
Right, we had one who was doing it, others who inquired, and we stopped the one who was doing it. He's been doing some other work, but not the hauling. But he's been hauling leachate, which it's been hauled at a standard rate of like 6 cents a gallon, which the engineer gave us on that. And
I think at the next council, I can bring us an ordinance so you can have a clearly defined policy and it won't just be minutes. But if you all want it at those rates, $75 and $35, I can draft the ordinance that says that to make it clear. Does he need to answer?
Huh?
I guess in the interim, y'all, we can continue to do business at that rate if that's what the council wants to do.
Yeah, well, we hadn't allowed him to haul since like March or May, one of them M months,
Okay.
because he got up to the $5,000. We just been doing other stuff, hauling in a different way or whatever.
Well, I think it'd be best if we do it by ordinance, so we just have a standard ordinance and everybody know what this is the rate we pay for hauling.
Okay,
I'll bring that for the next council meeting.
all right. Mr. Mayor, you want to present D, your grass cutting bids?
You can, if you, while you're there, you can,
Well, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but we've given it to
yes.
the council and asking them to approve.
We have had these grass cutting bids and folks are waiting and some folks are just cutting and just waiting for approval. But we've given the bids out and they're awarded, but people can't do the job until you all approve them. I've given them to you. After we took the bids.
I haven't went back and looked at the minutes, but you all, when Mr. Clancy made his presentation, I suggested you all bid the contracts, anything over 5,000. Y'all have done the bids. The mayor has exclusive authority to award the bid and to enter the contract. The question is, has it been appropriated, Mr. City Treasurer?
We have it in contract labor, so it's just no line item for grass cutting. It would be contract labor.
So you're asking them to go ahead and prove the bids that you have. Do you have a copy of them?
I do not. I've given them to them several times, and I just see it back on the agenda, and I'm just waiting on their approval. But they have. I've given them the copy of the bids.
In the general scope, this would be the river park, the medians, the
parks.
I don't think we did the median. I think the AMP was doing.
Right, the AMP took that one, the medians.
So
what's
the sewer pond?
The sewer pond, River Park, White House Sims Park, North Helena Park, David Solomon Park.
all the way to Helena.
Springdale Road was one of them. Of course, it's not being cut because nobody's been approved on that. There was something else. I have it back there on my desk. I go get it. Give me a second.
So while he's going to do that, the minimum wage, the minimum pay adjustment per CPI. If we want to, we're gonna talk about that, or we're gonna wait on that. Animal control ordinance. We got anything on that? So we'll table animal control ordinance.
On animal control, didn't we have a proposal on that, and whenever one put together? I got it somewhere.
Yeah, we'll table this next meeting.
Okay.
One of the things about it, if I may, a point of indulgence from city council. I don't know if any of this other stuff is urgent, emergent for the night. But considering the discourse that I had with Mr. St. Columbia earlier, and Mr. Etheley had with Mr. St. Columbia, and you are nearing the 8 o'clock hour. I don't want this meeting to end without anybody in the audience having an opportunity to address you all for this one meeting, because I don't want it to be that the city council engaged in the freedom of speech First Amendment violation. Because when we open it for one, we have to open it for all. Our policy and our ordinances have been that you have to go to the city council, go to the city clerk, get on the agenda, and that's how we've always done it. But when we open the floor, what the United States Supreme Court has said in case law is that when the opportunity passes, then you have taken a person's right to freedom of speech. If we allow one person to speak, then, and we don't allow somebody else to speak, then we have potentially violated that freedom of speech. And so I want to make sure that before we end, that anybody in the audience wants to address the city council in this council meeting that are present here physically, that they have opportunity to do so before we conclude this agenda, because we did allow a couple of you to speak. That is the reason why the city council every year votes and wants to make sure that you get on the agenda, because we can regulate as a city time, the place, the length, but not the content, the manner, no content. And so we try to restrict how citizens address the city council member, so we won't have free-for-alls and et cetera. And it'll be organized, but when we open the floor is open. And because we open the floor, we want to make sure that citizens have a right that are here. If they want to address you, they can address you about whatever. And we go back to our normal format in the regular meetings. But before we leave, Mayor, I want to make sure that the audience has a chance, if they got anything on any nature relating to any city business, that they can ask you for this one meeting.
City attorney, so. Let me make sure that I understand. We are not discouraging people from not coming to meetings.
No,
right?
no, we're not discouraging people.
What we are doing is we are saying, if you are going to come and voice your opinions, then what you would need to do is you would need to be on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, that's a good question. What the United States Constitution, what the United States has said as relates to freedom of speech, First Amendment, is that once one person gets a chance to speak, anybody should be able to speak. And the city council, if you want to limit speech, you must do so by ordinance and by procedure. The procedure that the city has had since 2005 in consolidation is, if an audience wants to redress any issue, they get on the agenda and they can speak freely about whatever the issue is. You can relate the time frame. You can give them 3 minutes, you can give them 5 minutes. But as it relates to content, we cannot regulate content. Now, when we have an open mic where we say, citizens, you can speak, we have to sit there and wait till the last person say what they want to say. And we can't regulate content. If somebody starts talking about your dog, your house, your car, whatever, I mean, it is what it is. And so that's why we want to have people on the agenda and to be orderly. I'm not saying that the people here would be unruly. It's just saying that there's a procedure and a policy behind why the agendas are set the way they're set.
I made the comment. No, I don't discourage anybody who wants to address the council from coming to address the council. Do it in the way that the ordinance requires it to be done. The problem is that most people don't know what that process is, so they look to us to understand, how do I get on the agenda? What we should not be doing is signaling the people to stand up and come and talk. That's out of order. All they have to do is get on the agenda, close the business on Thursday before the next meeting, tell the clerk what they want to address the council about. If you have handouts, give them to the clerk so she can copy them and we can have them. That way everybody's prepared to have a productive conversation about the subject matter. But I've been here since consolidation, 17 years. And when council people start signaling people to come up and speak, is because they want that person to levy some criticism about people at the table. They already knew why that person came. They want to have them come up here and just have a free for all over all topics. And I have never done that. I have never done that. And I've never advocated for people to do that. Let them get on the agenda. Let's do it in an orderly fashion. Let's everybody know what's about to be discussed, so people can have intelligent questions and responses. And we can actually do business, because that's what we came here to do, is business. We didn't come here to have a free fall. And so my comments were about the out of order way that things were handled. And so I understand what Mr. Valley said, but I want to make it clear that I'm not discouraging anybody. If anybody wants to come and address the council, come, please come. Just get on the agenda properly.
Right.
Come before, and don't let people at this table, once you know, just do it the way it's supposed to be. Don't let people at this table lead you astray.
Now, in response to what's at the end to you, Ms. Miller, I was not discouraging people. I was just trying to, as the attorney, when I hear you allow people to speak and it's going against what our policies are, that's when I began to explain that, hey, wait a minute, we're doing something different. And I want to make sure that we are not cutting anybody off. Because of the practical issue that you have, we cannot regulate content. And even when they say they want to be on the agenda, if they want to be on the agenda to talk about, I want to talk about the city attorney, I'm on the agenda, okay? That's what you're talking about. Because that's what you said you're talking about, right? But I can't regulate your content. And so, to the extent that the floor has been open, once it's open, one citizen voice their concern, then another citizen gets to voice their concern if they so choose. And that's what I was saying about make sure that people have opportunity to say what they have to say. That's all I was saying. But the proper manner for them to get on the agenda and if it be discussed, and we go forward from there. And again, we're not trying to stop anyone from speaking, but I wanted to make sure before this is over, before everybody begin to pack up and say, because we're getting answered because it's getting close to 8, that if anybody in the audience wanted to address the council, that the mayor give time for them to give. I don't know what else we need to accomplish on the agenda tonight, but we need to deal with any audience members before we leave and then go back to our regular methodology.
You wanted the bids? My phone is writing on it now. I thought they were on my desk, but they weren't.
For clarity, which bids are you talking?
For the grass cutting. So the areas that were subject to bid was North Helena Park, the Waddell Sims Park, the park on Little Rock Road, 10th Street Park, the Eliza Miller Park, also called the Hollow, Solomon Park, Kelly Courtyard, River Park. Kelly Courtyard is separate from the River Park. I read them almost together. The levee or Walk Street levee, it says medians, Hickory Hill, Newman Drive, Springdale Road, the solar fields at the airport, Plather Street, Library Grounds, Biscoe Street, the welcome signs, Sewer Ponds, Helena, Sewer Ponds, West Helena. And the bids were awarded to on the company called Family Runs Deep, the Sims Park, and Eliza Miller Park. On a King Cuts, Little Rock Road Park, 10th Street Park, and the medians, but the medians we already said that A&P was doing. On North Helena Park, Walker and English, Solomon Park, Walker and English, Kelly Courtyard, Walker English, River Park, Walker English. Biscoe Street and welcome signs. I don't know if anybody's doing that. That's Walker English. These were basically the low bids. Cat Enterprise was awarded the Plather Street Library Grounds. There's a bid from I. Smith that was rejected. He only bid on the Little Rock Road, and he was higher. It was 680 a cut. The King Cuts was 500 a cut. And then I believe it's Mr. Eaton. I don't remember how he classified it, but he bid $13,750 to cut everything at $125 per acre. But you couldn't compare his bid to the other bids, so his bids were rejected as not being made to form. But you had bids from Family Runs Deep, King Cuts, Walker English, Cat Enterprises, and I. Smith, and M&K. So that's Eaton and somebody else, Mr. Eaton and somebody. It's the 13,000. And so the mayor had wrote on the thing, approved and rejected, or A and R for approved or rejected, and signed it, and that's what we're giving to you as a printout for those bids. But those that overlap with what A&P is already doing, although some of that may not have been bidded, we're only going to have a double cut. So A&P was already cutting it. The mayor was not going to interfere with that. And they would have some discussion at some point how they're going to do it next year.
Mayor, what do you ask somebody to do?
Asking the body to approve, to award these bids as stated by the chief of staff.
The year.
Oh.
I mean, we might as well go ahead and approve.
I'll make a motion to.
Ms. Harris moves to approve the bids as stated by the chief of staff. Mrs. Miller seconds the motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. St. Columbia,
Same.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Davis, and Mr. Eppley.
Yeah.
Vote is for,
I believe our sewer ponds, the bids were rejected by the mayor, but they've been cut by Mr. Clancy.
Yes.
Yes. Clancy did not bid, but so we probably need to approve his payment. I don't know.
Yes, and the solar panels, Mr. Frank Clancy is cutting
Clancy
through
and the solar panels
the sewer pond.
and they're likely to exceed $5,000 for the year.
Yes, so can we get a motion to approve those two bids by Mr.
Well, they're not bids.
I mean, those
Yeah,
payments,
expenditure.
those expenditures. Mrs. Miller moves to payment, give Mr. Clancy the payment. Mrs. Davis, Mrs. Harris second.
To approve the service contract for
Frank.
Clancy to cut the sewer ponds and the solar panels for the remainder of the year.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, let's watch this.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Eppley. It's approved 5-0.
Let me clarify, Mr. St. Columbia asked me, I didn't want him to vote no. I laugh because you're a good person, and I thank God that you're here. You're a very good person.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item E, we'll come back to that. That's minimum pay adjustment for CPI. Item F, I don't know if you are prepared to discuss that tonight. That's the animal control, so we'll come back to that. Liberty Street and West Park, we've been kind of kicking down the road. Those were the guys that helped us on the street is 14 people. And we was asking you all to approve a one-time payment to them. And the net amount of $250 for West Park, for Liberty Street, and then the West Park. I don't remember how many people it was. I had to get the number, but the same thing. West Park, the 6-inch water line that blew. And those guys came out late on Saturday night and repaired those. Liberty Street, I guess we're all familiar with Liberty Street, but we basically took on that project ourselves and fixed it with out of pocket, I think around $15,000 as opposed to 50 to 100. And so we wanted you to incentivize those people who worked on it with a net payment of $250. Net is gonna be 4% or so above that to pay the retirement and the taxes and all of that. So I don't know what that is. So it may be about $350. One-time payment, not a pay raise, no, it's just a one-time payment for them. And the source of the funds we'd identified coming from, we demolished the house on West Park and they paid us $6,000 cash. And then Mr. Howard Eaton paid us $3,000 to demolish 3 houses. So it's gonna be less than $9,000. And that's what we identified. I don't know if the money's still available, but that's what we had identified several months ago when we asked you to do this.
Yes.
I motion to be given that one-time payment, the Liberty Street project, $150.
Say.
Ms. Miller moves to approve the Liberty Street project. Mrs. Harris second the motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Can we do Liberty and West Street together, and West Park together?
Liberty and West Park together.
West Park is water guy.
Is that right? This is Miller,
Yes.
this is
Yes.
Harris.
Roll call, Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. St. Columbia. Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Davis, Mr. Eppley.
Yes.
5-0.
Okay. I know we're running short on time, and I know Mr. Allen and Mr. Collins are sitting here, but there was 2 items that Ms. Harris asked that we add to the agenda. They're on the back at item L and O, not necessarily that we're gonna take action, but whomever her audience needs to know that we have added this item. That's 10th Street. It says 10th Falls, but it's 10th Street and Falls Lane overgrowth. As a concern that was brought to Ms. Latoya Harris, and we're going to deal with that with Mr. Collins and Mr. Allen to the extent that it's in the right of way. If it's in the right of way, the city can deal with it. If it's not the right of way, if it's in the right of way, the street department can deal with it. If it's not in the right of way, code enforcement have to deal with it. But we will be going out there making a look and seeing what we can do about that. And then the 12th Street dilapidated structures is going to be code enforcement, and it may take a little time. And I mean, no offense to the people on 12th Street, but the quickest solution is a match. For real. For real. 12th Street is horrible. It's horrible. So I say that with the greatest degree of kindness and love for whoever's living over there. But it's awful, 12th Street. But we will direct that to code enforcement and ask them to take the appropriate steps to deal with it. You know, you can take bulldoze, track holes, whatever you want over there. It's just, it's bad. From the corner to the school, it's awful. 12th Street.
There are 2 things that I think we still need to address before we leave. First, when we have a meeting on the very first day of the month, many times city council reschedules the second meeting. And that's a question on the end of your agenda. Do you want to still meet on August 15th? Do you want to change the meeting to August 22nd?
Yeah, we put that on there because this meeting falls on the first day of the month. And then your next meeting is gonna be, the first meeting in September is gonna be right after the holiday.
You don't have to change anything. We'll just, sometimes you'll vote to change it, sometimes you'll just say leave it the same. So the question was just placed here as a household matter. So leave it as is. The second thing, man, you want to poll the audience if any of them have anything, comments they want to make, and questions they want to ask for this meeting on.
You can ask them. You can ask them. Anybody in the audience have anything they'd like to say? Any comments?
I got a 4-hour filibuster ahead. Y'all ready? Good stretch, because I'm not.
We can limit time. We can't give you 3 minutes. We can't limit. Will you come to the microphone, please? We can limit you to
say, make her shut up. Julie Goings, I live in Helen and Oak Forest, and I just want to say that I come to these meetings to show support. I don't come for criticism. I'm not on Facebook playing. I don't do that. I'm an adult. I don't like being treated like a school child, Mr. Ethley. I will say that. But there are some concerns that I do have since I was asked by this body. And one is if we will tend to these matters in an expeditious manner. And, you know, I know that a water emergency comes first always, and I would never put my personal needs ahead of what's best for my city. But there are some issues that I did call in through the proper channels at the first of the year, and we're in 8th month now. So, and I know that y'all tried to look at these things. We've had the 811 flags put in our yard because of the issue there. But if I could just get an update on that, if we're headed toward that. The other issue I have too, is the Waverly Wood. We have raw sewage leaking down the road. And that was also called in months and months and months ago. Spoken with Mr. Murdoch. Of course, I've spoken with you several times. So these are just things that I don't know. I don't think the rest of the body knows is happening, but it is not legal for raw sewage to run down a public street. It's not in the best interest of anyone. And then I guess the third thing that I should bring up is what Ms. Galloway was trying to mention was the Oak Forest thing that Mr. Valley said is not raw sewage. I too live in, no, it was you. You said Ms. Galloway likes to refer to it as raw sewage, but it's not such. I'm sorry, I apologize. But and so I live in Oak Forest, and I'd like an update on that. also, you know, I know we're in a lawsuit, so there may be things that can't be told about that situation, but, you know, if there is raw sewage, we don't need that, obviously.
Well,
Now, I mean, Mr. Valley, can you tell us why, Ms. Galloway believes that it's, explain to us, what believes it's raw?
Well, I don't think she believes it's raw sewage. She said that there was raw sewage flowing there. She says it's a temporary fix. And that if something bumps that pipe, you have raw sewage flowing again. But that's not what's happening right now. She wants you to do a permanent repair to what she believes is a temporary repair. The sewage issue. I think her more pressing issue, the stormwater that creates a river right in front of her house every time it rains. But both things need to be dealt with, but the sewer issue is in the CAO that we've talked about, that consent administrative order, that's going to be done as a part of that whole package that we're working on. You're getting the engineers and all those people who go through that consent administrative order. We went to Little Rock and met with them about it. It was part of that. And that's Oak Forest.
They'll
Right.
be prepared for the money when the funds are released.
And as a part of that, ADEQ consent administrative order we're working on.
Believes that it was ordered that it be repaired properly and that's not being done.
Right,
So,
right.
it's semantics, it's.
Right, so she's calling it raw sewage, but it's not raw sewage. It was raw sewage at one point.
Yeah, it's
But,
not.
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
they have laws.
Now, separately, there is raw sewage where she's talking about over on Waverly Woods. And we've been trying to get to the bottom of that, and of course, our attention got diverted when people had no water in West Helena. But we've been telling you that Waverly Woods, the manholes were full and not flowing, and we've fixed one thing after another, and they still haven't been flowing. And so we're going at some point have to probably bring in some contractors to spend a lot of money to figure out why they're not flowing.
Right.
The map's not working, cleaning them out is not working. And so what the plumber told Miss Julie Strayhorn, you know, right? Yeah, I was about to say going, but what they told me Strayhorn was that the manhole in Sandy, our city clerk's yard, was full. And that's why it's backing up across the street out of her property. And so we go there and it is full. And why it's full, we haven't been able to figure out. Sandy's not having a problem, Sandy's neighbor's not having a problem, but it's not moving. Or not moving quickly from there, because sewer is a gravity flow thing. So at one point, Mr. Murdoch had brought in a vacuum truck to kind of vacuum some of it out that would alleviate the problem on a temporary basis, but we got to get it to flowing. There's probably a line collapse somewhere in the woods. That's probably what has happened.
And there are multiple houses on one line.
Yeah.
According to Andre Crawford's report, there was like the house that I own is hooked to a house beside it. So if one person flushes, the waste may come up in the back of their neighbor's house.
Yeah.
So it's gonna flow into our houses or it's going into the street, which is wasted.
Yes, it's an old pre-code sewer hookup type thing. You're very neighborly the way it's hooked up.
Question, I guess, that I stood up, sorry, I went about it the long way, was, the city has more than just freshwater leaks. There's sewer leaks, there are potholes, which is on the agenda, which turn into erosion issues, and this gentleman that was sitting here was talking about his ditch doesn't drain. When I was a kid growing up, if the ditch was stopped up, my daddy went out with a shovel and he cleaned it out, and he cleaned the widow woman beside it. But that generation is people want something done for them.
Right.
And but you know, who do we call about those other issues? So I'm gonna call Mr. Murdoch and tell him, just like someone said earlier, you don't call the fire, you don't call the mayor if your house is on fire. But who do you call if you have an issue with sewage?
That's sewage is Murdoch.
That's right.
He's sewer and water.
He's all very aware of that.
Yeah, so he's sewer and water. The potholes is Mr. Clarence Allen, right there. Yeah.
We did park a truck in the hole that's in the street in front of my house, which has washed out underneath my house. My house is gonna go downhill.
That's the drainage issue that we had marked and ready to go, send the street department over there, and then everybody lost water in West Allen. So we got to get back over there. But we're on the course to try to figure out what it is. We don't know what is causing the problem, but there is a problem in the front yard, and it's caused by rainwater runoff, and we believe it belongs to the city. And we had the engineer to come over, and they basically said, do these things. And we were in the midst of doing those things, and then we got diverted. Because of course, you just don't have enough staff to do, or equipment to do all of it. The mayor said something that may have been a little inartful. He talked about trailer being raggedy, you can't move the equipment. And just to make that very plain, anything we can't pull with a pickup truck, which is most of our big stuff, we have to pull with either an 18-wheeler or a gooseneck. And both of those pull trailers that are probably as old as the mayor, and not necessarily in the best shape. So at some point, we're gonna need to be looking at buying a trailer to haul these things on, or hiring somebody to haul it. We tried hiring people to haul it, and we got prices from $350 per move to $600 per move. And that's like from Helena-West, 600 in the morning, 600 in the evening kind of moves. So that's why sometimes it doesn't move until we get our raggedy trailer ready to move it. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with. So Alderman Davis has spoken to us numerous times about doing things in her ward and her neighborhood, and we're coming back to South San. We are. But when the track hole gets trapped in Helen, because the trailer can't move it, we can't get to her neighborhood, for example. So that's just one of the things that we're dealing with. Not making excuses. We just want you to understand the difficulties with maneuvering and moving all these things around. But we're getting there. We're up and out at 6 in the morning, and sometimes we're out till 9 at night doing stuff, trying to make it happen while we got daylight and dry weather. That's when it starts raining, we ain't gonna be able to do it.
And Mr. Not to cut you off, Mr. Abbott, but Council, we actually need a trailer. We need a better trailer than what we have. That's how we've been getting these houses torn down, and the trailer is unsafe. I really wish you all, if we bring something to y'all in the next couple of days, we need a trailer. It was good to be on South Sam. It's good to be all over the community when we got a decent trailer, and we don't have to put blocks of it. Not to put our business out there. I didn't mean to say regular, but it is. So I wish that you all would, if Mr. Murdoch and Mr. Valley come with a proposal for a trailer that can hook to our 18-wheeler to move our equipment, that takes a lot of stress off us trying to find somebody to pull the trailer, want to charge us 6 in the morning, and I mean $600 in the early morning, then at 9 o'clock another 6 or $300. That's a lot of money. We could buy a trailer for a decent trailer, and you all working to look at it. But when we find it, but we need to have something to pull this equipment to get these houses down.
The trailer that we're using with our 18-wheeler we bought in 2006 or 7. It was older than the mayor then, but we've gotten 14, 15 years out of it. So, you know, we'll keep it for a long time, whatever it is that you buy. But I didn't say that to ask you to buy something. So we need something, but I just want you to understand the challenges. Also on South Sam, one person, he's not consented to us taking that house down, the last house. And then we had to get the gas company to the market and the light company. All of these houses are burned and halfway falling down. They still have gas and lights hooked up. And we can't do anything to them until they remove those things. But we coming. I promise you. And Ms. Stratton, we coming. I promise you. I promise you.
And trailers are very expensive now.
Yeah. And Ms. Hadlock, we ain't gonna forget you. And to the extent that I've come across as firm, I am that. As rude, I'm not. But I do understand. I take all this stuff very seriously. And so I want to make sure I communicate clearly with you all and with the audience that's on this device over here. So if I come across inappropriately, I apologize.
Yes. One thing I just want to say before we go, I want to commend the Chief of Staff, Ms. Miller, Mayor Franklin, for fresh eyes and a new approach. Much of what we're getting done happened the genesis of someone having a thought to people getting payment plans to tear properties down. Ms. Miller and the mayor talked about it, and the Chief of Staff after one city council meeting. And many people are calling now. You're seeing so much because people actually, will you give me a payment plan to tear it down? And so I just want to commend the three of you all for going forward and getting it done, because that's why you're seeing so much action. You haven't been seeing a lot of condemnation because people are volunteering, like, hey, will you come? Can you come tear me down? Can I get a payment plan to do it? And that's what's happening. It's just energy just building. And so that's what you're seeing, this the fresh eyes, new approach, and I commend all of you.
Question, would you clarify, are you saying some people are paying to have these torn down? They're paying like for their property?
$4 a square foot is correct. $4 a square foot.
But if it's an abandoned property, the city's absorbing the costs.
But most of them that they're doing now, my understanding is that people are paying the ones that we're doing right now.
Yeah, but on some of them, as you call abandoned, they've been condemned for a long time. We're keeping our hours and we will create a bill and have the city council to approve it, and it will go on the tax roll. So we're not absorbing it. We're absorbing it right now, but it's not forever. They will eventually, somebody will eventually buy the property or pay the taxes on it, and we'll get money from that. Yeah.
I think that I don't think that the general public maybe understand who the people are paying, and that may give you some very positive response.
I've told them we collect over $100,000 from code enforcement has, we're
Right.
rolling with people paying their occupation license and tearing down houses. People are paying money, and it's not going to me. It's going to the city of Helena-West. So you can check the receipts that we get receipts. It's going to the city of Helena-West. I don't need. I take a payroll check though. I get.
Our next meeting is August 15th.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. St. Columbia, if you would. All right. Yeah, have a good night.